The purpose of this video is to show you how to complete Lab 1. In Lab 1, we're going to use software to make tables and graphs. The first thing we need to do is download the data set, which is saved as an Excel file, and then load the data into the StatCrunch software. To get this done, go ahead and navigate your browser to the course website. Once you're there, click on Sitemap and then Labs, and click on the link that says Lab Dataset. This should download the file and save it in your Downloads folder. Please do not open the file in Excel. What we'd like to do here is load the data file, the Excel file, into the StatCrunch software environment. To get this done, go ahead and log into MyMathLab. Now click on the tile labeled 2017 semester . Then click on the StatCrunch link. Then click on the Visit StatCrunch website link. Under the heading titled My Data, click on Select a File from My Computer. Now click on Choose File. What we need to do now is select the Excel file that you downloaded. If you happen to download the file into your Downloads folder, then to load it into StatCrunch, just simply double-click on the file. Now scroll down to the end of the page, all the way down, and click on Load File. This should open up StatCrunch's spreadsheet environment with the lab datasets loaded. So you should be getting a spreadsheet environment that looks a lot like what I've got here. The next thing to do is complete the lab. To get this done, we will follow the instruction set on the lab cover sheet. To find the lab cover sheet, navigate back over to the course website. Once you get there, click on Sitemap Labs and click on the link that says Lab 1 StatCrunch. This should open up the cover sheet for Lab 1. When you turn Lab 1 in, please do include this cover sheet as a part of your printout. Notice the directions at the top. Please do read the directions. In order to get full credit for this lab, you need to include the cover sheet, as well as an expanded frequency table for the tornadoes variable, followed by 6 graphs. Each one of your graphs needs to have the variable labeled and must include a title with your name on it. Graphs cannot be hand-drawn. Please do use StatCrunch or some other software. I will not accept a digital copy. Please do print and turn in a physical copy of your report and turn it in on the day that it is due. Please check the course calendar for the due dates. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So we've got our lab cover sheet / instruction sheet here, and we've got our data file. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed with question 1. In lab question 1, we're presented with the data set and asked to construct a relative frequency histogram for the data. And the data is a sample of retirement ages of 24 randomly selected doctors in San Diego. Now, if you notice, in the StatCrunch spreadsheet environment, we've got those retirement ages listed here in column 1. To graph the data as a relative frequency histogram, press the Graph drop-down menu with the left click. Left click on histogram. Select the variable to be graphed. That's the retirement variable, so left click on retirement. Under this heading that says type, that's the graph type, left click and select the relative frequency and then press the compute button. So there's your graph. What we need to do is put your name on the graph and then paste this over to a Word document or print the graph. So to get that done, we can press Options here, left click on that, and left click on Edit. This will bring up the initial settings window that we had before we graphed the initial graph here. You can scroll down and you can put a title in. Go ahead and put your name in the title. Please do include your name in the title of every one of your graphs, and then just click on Compute. So now if you wanted to change the class width or include more classes or more bars on your histogram, one way to do this is to go to Options, Edit again, and right here where it says bins, the label heading bins, the start at number, suppose you wanted to start at, say, 50. Looking at the data set, it looks like the minimum is 52. Maybe you want to start at 50 and go with a class width of 2. That's an arbitrary choice. Of course, you could do that just by selecting the start at number to be 50, the width number to be 2, and then press on Compute. If you don't tell StatCrunch what numbers you want to start at and bin width to be, it'll pre-select those two numbers for you. In the lab question, I noticed that we weren't given any instruction as to what the class width ought to be or what the number of classes ought to be, and that's totally fine. You go ahead and decide on the number of classes and the class width. The main thing is that you learn how to graph the histogram with the software. Next thing we want to do is either print this graph or paste this into a Word document. So I'm going to go ahead, paste this into a Word document, and paste all my lab graphs into a Word document. So let's go ahead and open up Word. To paste the document in, we're going to go to Options, Copy, and we're told to right-click on the image and select Copy. So I'm going to right-click and then left-click on Copy Image. To paste the file into Word, we want to press the Control button and the Alt button and the V button at the same time. Control, Alt, V. Once we get this window here, we'll select Bitmap and then click on OK. This will paste the histogram into our Word document. So the next thing to do is the next lab question. In question 2, we're asked to use a stem and leaf plot that has 2 rows for each stem to display this data set below. The data represents the winning scores from Super Bowl 1 to Super Bowl 47. Notice that data is already loaded into StatCrunch in column 2 labeled winning scores. To make the to make the stem and leaf plot, just left click on the graph drop down menu, left click on stem and leaf, left click on winning scores to select the variable to be graphed, and click on compute. So there you have it. We've got our stem and leaf plot for the data, and we've got 2 rows for each stem. So we'd like to paste this now into our Word document that we're going to print later. To get that done, go ahead and select all of the numbers in the graph here in this little window. Then to copy it, press Control-C. Open up your Word document and press Control-V to paste in the stem and leaf plot. On this plot, I'm allowing you to leave off your name, so you're not required to include your name on this graph. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to question 3. We're asked to use a pie chart to display the data below that's listed in the categorical frequency distribution. The data represents the results of an online survey that asked adults how they will invest their money in 2016. This is also, to get this done, we'll go ahead and we use 2 columns in the spreadsheet to enter in the categorical frequency distribution. We've got a classes column. We also have a frequency column. In our classes column, we have many people who invested in stocks, some invested in bonds, some held on to their cash, and some invested the same as they did last year. So we'll go ahead and label the frequency of each one of those classes in the frequency column. So we're entering in the categorical frequency distribution into the StatCrunch Excel environment. Then we'll go ahead and graph the pie chart. Okay, once we've got that done, just press on the graph button. So left click on the graph. Under the pie chart heading, we want to left click with summary here. If on the other hand we had the actual data set, then we want to left click on with data here. But we have a summary of the data set as was given in the categorical frequency distribution table. So left click here with summary. Go ahead and left click on this down arrow here and select class, the classes column, and that will tell StatCrunch what column your categories are in. The frequencies ought to be in the frequency column. So under the counts in heading here, left click on the downward triangle and select frequency. In this display window, go ahead and left click on count and then hold down on the control button. And while you're holding down the control button, also left click on percent of total. Then click on compute, left click on compute. So this will give us the pie chart with the total number of frequencies of each class. In addition, we get the relative frequency of each class as a percent. To put your name on this graph, we're going to go to Options, Edit, and scroll down until you see the title option, and go ahead and enter your name there. And then recompute. So there you've got your pie chart. Okay, now we're ready to print this pie chart or copy it over to our Word document, which we're going to print later. To get that done, left click on Options, Copy, and we're told to right click on the image. We'll right click on the image and then left click on Copy Image. Open up your Word document here. left click, and press Control Alt V. You can paste the graph in as a bitmap, and there you have it. So moving on to lab question 4. In lab question 4, we're given the number of tornadoes by state in 2012. So that's 50 states, 50 different states data. And we're asked to use StatCrunch to make an expanded frequency distribution table that includes frequencies, relative frequencies, cumulative frequencies, and cumulative relative frequencies. Also, we're told to use 20 for the class width and 0 for the lower class limit of the first class. So notice that the tornado data set is already loaded here in the StatCrunch environment in column 3 or list 3. To make the frequency distribution table, click on Stat. And under the table's heading, click on Frequency, left click on Frequency. Select the variable to be graphed, that's the tornadoes variable, so left click on that. Under this heading that says Statistics, we want to hold down on the control button, and while you hold down on the control button, left click on the word frequency, relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and cumulative relative frequency. Once you've done that, press the compute button, and we get this pop-up window that says there's lots of numeric values for tornadoes. Do you want to turn binning on? We'll go ahead and press OK. When we do this, StatCrunch will naturally sort the data into classes for us. Now, if we would have clicked on Cancel, then StatCrunch would have made the table and used every data entry as a single class in a table. So, but what we'd like to do is use 20 for class width and 0 for lower class limit. And so, of course, the software did that for us when we turn the binning on. So the next thing to do is to copy and paste the table over to our Word document that we're going to print later. So to get that done, we'll go ahead and highlight the entire table here and left click on copy. Open up your Word document and press Control V to paste in the table. So the next thing to do is problem number 5, which asks us to graph a histogram for the tornadoes data set. To get that done, we'll go ahead and X out of this table, and we'll go ahead and press left click on the graph drop down menu, left click on histogram, select the variable to be graphed, so left click on tornadoes. You want to start the graph at 0, so under the heading that says bin, make sure your start at number is 0. The width ought to be 20. Once you've done that, scroll down, and on the title, include your name. Then click on Compute. This will generate your graph. To copy and paste that over to Word, we're going to left click on Options and left click on Copy. We're told to right click on the image, so we'll right click on the image, left click on Copy Image, then open up your Word document here. And to paste that in, we'll press the Control Alt V. Control Alt V. So to paste that in, we can paste it in as a bitmap. And there you have it. So now I'm going to leave questions 6 and 7 open for you to figure out. And let's go ahead and move on to question 8. So in question 8, we're asked to graph a dot plot for the same data set, the tornadoes data. And don't forget to label the graph's axes and include your title in the name of the graph. So to get that done, we'll go ahead and X out these graphs. And we're going to left click on graph, left click on dot plot, select the variable to be graphed. It's the tornado variable, so left click on tornadoes here. Don't forget to include your name in the title, so scroll down and under title type in your name. Then left click on compute here, and boom, you've got your dot plot. So next thing to do is copy and paste that over to your Word document. So left click on options, left click on copy. We're told to right click the image to copy it, so right click, then left click on copy image, open up your Word document, and press Control-Alt-V at the same time. So we'll go ahead and select bitmap here, paste in our figure as a bitmap, and there you have it. So the last thing to do here is problem 9 on the lab. In problem 9, we're given 2 rows of data. We're given this data. It shows the years of experience of 14 registered nurses and their annual salaries in thousands of dollars. We're asked to construct a scatter plot with the years of experience graphed along the x-axis, and so salary will be graphed along the y. Don't forget to label your graph's title and axis. Alright, so to get that done, we'll close out these images here. Notice the years of experience and salaries data is already loaded into the StatCrunch environment for us. So to graph the scatter plot, left click on the graph drop-down menu, left click on scatter plot. For the x variable, we want to select the years experience, and the y variable will be the salaries variable. The next thing to do is scroll down and put your name on the title. Then click on compute. And there's your scatter plot. StatCrunch has already labeled your x and y axes. Because you had your columns labeled, it automatically put those labels on your x and y axes when you graphed the data. So the next thing to do is to copy and paste this over to Word. So to get that done, left click on options, left click on copy. We're told to right click on the image, so go ahead and right click, and then left click on copy image. Open up your Word file and press Control-Alt-V at the same time. And we'll paste this in as a bitmap. And there you have it. So that shows you exactly how to do Lab 1 with the StatCrunch software. If you have any questions about how to get this done, or please feel free to contact me or ask me about it in person in class.